next interlude brings to the forefront one of the more gentle men in rock and roll.
Welcome to the Ear Mob Podcast, a podcast dedicated to music and all things unexplained. Ear Mob is your one-stop shop for all the topics you are interested in and desire to know more about. Whether it be rock and roll, UFOs, ghosts, or drumming, the Ear Mob Podcast has you covered. So sit back, settle in, and join me, your host, Chaz Stumbo, as I take you on a journey through the gateway into the Ear Mob universe. Welcome, everybody. My name is Chaz Stumbo, and we are here today on the Ear Mob Podcast. Today, I'm going to play an interview I recently conducted with a friend of mine, Marc Coppell. Marc is over in New Zealand, and he's going to talk about his paranormal experiences, his sightings of UFOs, and his recent and ongoing encounters with the Moehau Man, which is New Zealand's version of Bigfoot. Marc goes into great detail on how he interacts with the Bigfoot, the Moehau Man, and he's also going to talk about, again, his paranormal experiences and growing up and how he earned the title The Haunted Man. So Marc has a website. It's www.mountainofentities.com. And this is like a blog, and it talks about his encounters with the Moehau Man. So I want to go ahead and start this interview. So I'm going to start it now. Sit back and enjoy the interview. Hey, Marc, you there, buddy?
Yes, I am here, yes.
Marc, oh, man, it's so good to talk to you. I haven't talked to you, and it's been a while, man. I think the last time I chatted with you was just kind of dropping you some messages when you were doing your YouTube live things. How you doing, bud?
Oh, yeah, staying alive, thanks, Chaz. Yeah, had a very interesting time back here. How have things been for you?
You know, things are good, Marc. So what's been going on, buddy? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Who is Marc Coppell, and what is Marc Coppell up to these days?
Well, I'm known as the Haunted Man. I have, if you're associated with Chaz, you might know that Chaz is you're a paranormal investigator. Well, I met Chaz when I lived in Las Vegas. I was doing the same thing as Chaz. In fact, I went to one of the little meetups over at Foxwoods Park. I remember you talking about the little boy ghost there. But I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I've also turned into cryptozoology through some very strange events that occurred over at Skinwalker Ranch and also in southern Nevada in 2013, and some very weird things have been happening since I've come back to my country down in New Zealand, on the outside of the world from you there.
Yeah, I know that when you left Vegas, and you had quite a few experiences here in and around Vegas, and I know that when you went back to New Zealand, you started going out and investigating, looking for cryptids in New Zealand, and you've had quite some luck with that. Am I right in that?
Yeah, I've had some very strange things happen. I don't know if it's a result of going to Skinwalker, but I basically got, the PSP7 Spirit box, right?
Yeah, I own one.
Commercially available.
I own one, yes.
I got a very strange message that said, accept the Bigfoot people, big people, and it got repeated. And weird things started happening out in the bush when I was exploring some old gold mining areas. I had no idea that we even had Bigfoot in New Zealand.
Wow! Wow! No, there's a name that you guys have for Bigfoot or Sasquatch down in New Zealand. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's several names. Just like there is hundreds into thousands of names around the world, different countries, different languages, different cultures. Here we have what they call the Moehau, or the Bigfoot from the Coromandel Peninsula, which is in the northeastern side of North Island of New Zealand. Beautiful area. I actually caught a bunch of UFOs when I was doing some filming out there, doing my research, real weird stuff. and there's also there's some other names I just can't even pronounce. I'm trying to the Puki, the Mauro, or the Mauro for short. This is the Maori language, of course.
Sure.
And so basically it means the hairy man or the wild hairy man. And the Maori were scared of them. They could overpower their warriors, they said. They were said to take some of their people even, according to some of their legends. What is really interesting, Chaz, is that they talked about some of the things that these Bigfoot did that while they didn't know anything about what was going on in North America, they didn't have a written language at the time, but they talked about like they would throw stones at them. And there's even reports of like when the muskets first arrived in New Zealand along with the Europeans, that these beings could not be harmed from firearms. Some sort of, supernatural aspect. Just like, you probably heard about them too over there in America, some things, very similar stories.
Well, there's stories over here. There's multiple stories going back where people will see a Bigfoot just blink out, or they'll follow the Bigfoot tracks, these big, tracks that are like, 16 to 18 inches long, and then the tracks just stop. Or there'll be UFO sighted in areas where there's quite a bit of Bigfoot activity. So a lot of people feel that they're interdimensional creatures, or maybe they're able to cloak themselves or change shape, or there's a lot of different theories going on. And I'm not an expert. I mean, I read up on it as much as I can, but I mean, you've probably forgotten more about it than I've ever known, so you're quite into it.
Yeah, they basically, when I was up in north and eastern Utah in 2013, went to Skinwalker Ranch, and something threw a rock right by me and my then girlfriend up on UFO Hill there, and the rock hit the ground like with an explosion. First I thought it was a battery pack that had exploded, and then I heard this like weird, something call out from the darkness. I mean, it was really dark out there, and I from research, I suspect that was a Bigfoot from the Uinta Basin. And as you talk about the visible footprints appearing, I've had much of what you're talking about. I've had happen to me since I've been back in New Zealand, including having a shadowy being run up to me, and I nearly died from medication interaction about 3 years ago. But I've experienced some of what you're talking about. I've had things approach me in the wilderness that I couldn't see. I could hear them walk right up to me, and I've picked up strange languages and stone clacking, wood knocks, strange structures that identify with structures like in Colorado and Utah and up in Canada.
Wow.
And I put the pieces together, and I thought, man, this has to be Bigfoot. I mean, as a paranormal investigator, I was kind of using my skills of that for cryptozoology. So then I started wearing point of view cameras, because I thought, heck, whatever's going on here, I need to be wearing a camera, because I just thought, man, am I going nuts or what? This is unbelievable. And then I picked up something with a very deep set of lungs, with this big groan, along with these wood knocks and bipedal footsteps on a very steep slope. Basically, I found like the epicenter of where all this activity is coming from. It's really weird stuff. I mean, ghost hunting, as weird as that is, doing that, and the things that can happen to you doing that. Well, this is just taking it to another level.
Yeah. Well, you said you heard something groan at you. Was it, a lot of people associate like infrasound with Bigfoots, where it's not that they hear it, they also feel it. And it's almost like an area where they feel it and hear it. So it's almost like they hear it and feel it at the same time. And it's almost like, hey, you know what? We're warning you that you don't belong here. This is our area, and you need to go away if you know what's good for you. Did you get that feeling? Was it that type of, hey, I can feel this?
I didn't ever get a warning. In fact, I got the opposite. I mean, it sounds unbelievable, but I had an astral-like being invite me. It actually came into my room. I was just laying there trying to sleep, and I get this message that says basically a date, and taps me on the head, shaking the bed, let me know that I wasn't dreaming. That at least that's what I think he was trying to let me know. When I went out there on that date, something ran past me through the bush, very powerful. Now, the only dangerous animal that we have here in the wild is the wild pig. We don't have, like you have over there, like mountain lions or bears or wolves or anything like that. But and then I've got some pictures of some very strange-looking things in the bush. I take a bunch of pictures when I go out there too. So this wasn't really infrasound. It was actually like a deep voice. I picked it up, but it had a very deep set of lungs. But I have had the foot stomp that people sometimes talk about, which you can feel like in your heart. It's got a very deep resonance, like a lot of power to it.
Sure. And when you go out, have you? I mean, you've captured these strange voices. Are these voices that you've captured? I take it you have recordings of these and that type of thing, correct?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So when you capture these voices, are these voices similar to like the Sierra sounds that we've all heard? You know, they're on YouTube and that type of thing, where they're also referred as samurai chatter. Is it something similar to that?
Yes. In fact, one of the voices that I picked up, a researcher here in New Zealand, the South Island, sent me a link to the Sierra sounds, and I recently listened to it. And one of the voices actually matches a voice that I hear out there. And I can try to mimic what I've heard. Basically goes, whoop, like that. And it matched one of those voices in Ron Moorhead's Sierra sounds. And I thought, oh, man, if I can just get a better recording of this, like what I need is a parabolic mic.
Sure.
If I can get a good recording of it, I can match the wavelengths up with the waveforms from the Sierra sounds, showing that it's the same kind of being out there that in the Sierra Nevada mountains is in the wilds of New Zealand.
I have to tell you, I don't know what I would do if I was out in the middle of the forest somewhere and I heard something like that. Chances are, I mean, in the dark, you know, or just in the forest where everything's so thick and you can't see what's going on around you, and all you can see is just, you know, trees and bushes and thickets and that type of thing, and you hear something like that, or you get bluff charged or something like, I don't know how I would handle that, regardless of how much I'm into this and that type of thing. You know, being a ghost investigator, paranormal investigator, I don't know what I would do if I was walking through a location and something just smacked me or scratched me or something like that. I haven't experienced that, so I don't know what I would do. So I applaud you for keeping your cool out there. That's pretty crazy.
At first, I felt, oh man, I know what you're talking about. You actually do feel very vulnerable, especially if you're by yourself. I mean, I'm out there, I'm unarmed. The only weapon I carry is a machete, basically to hack my way out there. This is the way off the beaten track where I go. People don't normally go. But, yeah, I totally understand. You're mentioning, you know, feeling very vulnerable. You'd feel very vulnerable. You probably heard of the Yowie, which is the
Sure.
Australian version of Bigfoot. You get quite a few people over in Australia that are researchers over there, just like in America, there's quite a few of them. But they get similar things. Like they'll go in and they'll get warned off. They'll get chased out of an area. I mean, if they don't want you there, they'll let you know. I mean, they'll scare you out. And I don't really hear of anyone getting like harmed or anything, but they can, just with the power of their voice, can scare you out of there. I mean, already if you're in the dark, man, that's enough to get you. I mean, I have been attacked by entities, like different spirits. I've had some pretty horrific stuff. But you know what? In the dozen times that I've been out there, they have never harmed me. I can speak differently for some spirit entities that I've come across who have harming and actually done pretty bad stuff, but they have actually been on the opposite end of the spectrum. And what's amazing, Chaz, is sometimes I pick them up saying my name. I gave them like a gift, a bone necklace, when I went out there last time, and I heard the EVP live right next to me. I heard something, and I picked it up on my point of view camera, and it said, "It's fabulous." Basically, she's saying thank you for the gift.
Wow.
And so I hear them sometimes live. Sometimes I hear them like they'll actually repeat what I say. They actually can speak English words. There's some different languages that I've heard out there. But yes, you talk about samurai chatter. Well, that was one of the first things I heard when I was out there. It's this beautiful area. It's got this ravine. It's very dangerous to climb into. But I found these beautiful glowworms along the stream area. So I have heard this voice, like these voices, like they're talking about me. And basically, I said to them, "Look, I don't mean any harm to you. I'm not a threat. Not that I could do anything anyway, but I made peace straight away, and I knew straight away there was something going on, and I wanted to know what was going on out there."
When you go to this place, I know your intentions are pure. You're not out there to, obviously you said all you carry is a machete. You're not going out there to kill one, to bring it back so you can prove that it exists by having a body. You're going out there with good intentions just to investigate, just on like a scientific aspect, as far as you want to know what's going on. You're not going out there to harm them. Do you think that they have picked up on that, and do you think that they have actually accepted you in a way?
Oh, definitely. You hit the nail on the head right there. They're very empathic. They'll know what you're up to if you're in the area. At least with the ones that I'm working with, there's a tribe of, apparently through ITC, there's about 10 of them. I've had the information repeated to me when I've been using ITC, or instrumental trans communication,
sure,
to try to garner intelligence about what's going on out there. And but they have responded very welcomely towards me. They have done tree knocks next to me. They have even pulled branches back. As I mentioned, I got that very deep voice that responded to me and actually come and mimic me. I kind of did like some whoops. I tried to do how they speak, or at least how they recorded some of the voices or sounds they make. And I picked up during video recording out there, they will actually copy what I'm saying. I actually took only one person, or close to a year ago, a man by the name of Devon, who's kind of worked on some archaeology here, ancient archaeology here in New Zealand. But I took this fellow with me, and he heard singing, and we came across some fresh footprints of varying sizes. This is an area with no tracks, no pathways. It's not a tourist area. It's very dangerous to climb into. It's very, very interesting.
Wow. And you said that they've actually come to your home and woken you up in the middle of the night. So that kind of lends to them being like maybe more of a physical and spiritual being, and maybe a multi-dimensional being, more of a paranormal aspect rather than just, say, the missing link or something like that. Maybe, not necessarily like a skunk ape or something like that, something more paranormal.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they walked up to me and I couldn't see them. That to me says, well, it's interdimensional. Now, people say, well, are they ghosts? Well, they're very ghost-like, but there's some things that lend to me that they aren't like normal ghosts. Now, you've been doing paranormal investigating like me for quite a while now. And now ghosts, as far as I know, ghosts don't procreate. And also ghosts, they do not have the strength to rip a tree down. And I've seen them, they've ripped a bunch of trees down, like matchsticks. And I'm talking about healthy, even palm trees.
Wow.
I mean, they're strong like nothing like, I don't know, maybe, elephant maybe is probably the closest I can picture. But they're very different to spirits. I remember when I lived in America, I saw a program. I don't remember if it was National Geographic, but they were talking about Bigfoot. And there was an American Indian by like a fire, like fireside kind of thing. And he said that they could be next to you and you wouldn't know it. Well, back then when I heard that, it sounded crazy. But after what I've experienced out here in the wilderness, it's actually starting to make a lot of sense. And so I've slowly been putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and I suspect they also have connections with UFOs, because I've picked up a couple of sets of UFOs now in their areas, in wild areas, and also some very strange anomalies up in trees out there where I go.
You're familiar with the SLS camera, correct? Where, you know, it maps things and like stick figures pop up, and it supposedly can map ghosts, you know, or entities that are in front of the camera, and it stems from like I think it's the Xbox or PlayStation, where, you know, you didn't have to have a controller in your hand, you just kind of moved and it moved on the screen and that type of thing. Well, a lot of people have been using that.
You know,
are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I've heard of it. It's like a kinetic system. I haven't used it, but I've heard of it, yeah.
So I'd be interested to see what would happen if you took one of those into your area. Since you know, obviously they're multidimensional, or they can be invisible or cloak themselves, or whatever the case may be. It would be interesting to see what you might pick up in your area using one of those SLS cameras.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good thing. I mean, I use infrared when I go out there. I don't really seem to pick up anything that way, but that would be interesting to see kind of the results of something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I have done an ITC session out there, and I got the words like Bigfoot and run now, and all the kind of words that you'd associate with the cryptids.
Yeah, run now is the equivalent of walking into a haunted house, and the first disembodied voice you hear says, "Get out." That's what the run.
Yeah,
that's what
I've had that attack. You know exactly what you're talking about.
Man, I'm so fascinated. Anytime I ever see you post something, I always read it, and I don't always get to comment, because I could be at work on my lunch break, or just flipping through my phone, and I don't always get to comment. But man, I'm there. I'm supporting you 100%, man. I have you ever seen one? Like, have you ever, like, even if it was out of the corner of your eye, or have you ever seen one like peek out from behind a tree? And I know you said you had one run up to you and you thought maybe it was like a shadow or something. Have you ever seen what we would perceive as Bigfoot or a Sasquatch?
I've had just about everything bar the straight on sighting. I've gotten probably at least one picture where I've got a figure by the tree with the conical, the conical head, like the Superman kind of body, Goliath kind of body. I can't say knowingly I've seen one straight on. I've had third eye kind of stuff, like when I've been in the hospital, and I did have like a shadow, kind of like a shadow creature, rush up to save my life when I was practically dying.
Wow.
And the ambulance people were surprised I was still alive afterwards. But some very dramatical stuff. But I've had everything bar straight on sighting, and I've been wanting that. I've been trying to get them to open up. They do trust me. According to ITC, they do trust me. And so I'm just working on the relationship with them. You've probably heard of Kawani Laparitis, the guy that wrote I think it was the Psychic Sasquatch.
And you know what? I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah, because he talks about like the interdimensional aspect, and Kawani has a scientific background too. It's quite interesting. But he's been interacting with them for decades, and he's done conferences and stuff. So it's quite interesting, really. But as I've done research, I've come across people like them and him and Mike Patterson, and there's a bunch of other people, other researchers, particularly in the Americas, and there are some in Australia as well.
What else have you been up to over there? And first, let me say this: I am very glad that you've made it through your health crisis and you are still here with us to share your knowledge. And what else have you been up to over there in New Zealand?
Well, I've been trying to raise money for my documentary. It's been slowly happening. Last year, there was a bit of a media frenzy, a news article about me, and then it went over to the TV news and it started going over the internet. So I garnered a little bit of local international attention last year, and I'd sort of been on some radio shows, TV, and just raising some awareness and also trying to raise funds to do this. So it's actually been happening very slowly, but I've actually been working on trying to get some interviews with people. I've talked to a number of people, including veterinarians, scientists, people who over here it's a very hush-hush subject. People are very frightened of ridicule here, more so than probably most places in the world. It's a very it's a small town kind of mentality here in New Zealand, and so most witnesses do not want to talk openly. I'm all about seeking the truth and finding answers, and I think people I get labeled as pretty weird as a result of that, but I don't really care. I mean I've already gone through poltergeist and all kinds of stuff, so I don't really care so much what people think about me. I'm more interested in getting answers, the truth.
Yeah, and I will tell you this, having done a few investigations with you and hanging out with you when you were here in Vegas, I don't know of another person that's as even keeled as you in an aspect of, you're there, you're doing it, you know what you're doing. You've had all of these experiences, probably more experiences than a lot of paranormal investigators would ever hope to have. You've had those experiences, and yet you're so well adjusted to it, and you're just, it's like, hey, I'm here to investigate the paranormal, and I've had these experiences, and let's see what kind of experiences we can have tonight. Let's see what kind of experiences we get from this place. And I don't see a lot of that. I see either people that have had experiences where they're completely freaked out and because they don't understand it and don't want any part of it. Or there's the people that go, oh my God, I just got touched, or, oh my God, did you see that?
Yeah.
Or, oh, I think I just got punched in the face. And, or when I was here last time, we got stick figures and I saw a shadow figure and I saw that, and I just look at them and go, why don't I believe you? Why don't I? But knowing you, when you say, hey, I've had these experiences, and, I was, you had an experience with a friend, you were down in a mine, not too far out of here in Vegas, and your friend almost got shoved off a ledge. I don't question that experience that you guys had, because I know, what, Mark's a good guy. Mark's not making anything up, because he's not out there to sensationalize anything. He's not out there trying to get a TV show or anything like that. Mark's doing it because he has a passion for it, and he's had these experiences, and he wants to help people understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have had some very bad supernatural experiences, and so there's a lot of fear associated with the subject, but there's also a very beautiful aspect to this. Now, back in, 1994, I wrote a paper on near-death experiences, but really what I'm trying to do is get to the next level of, communication, and I've had some experiences with people who've passed on, and other verifiable information that sort of supported that it was not just a dream, it actually happened, and the said intelligence went and communicated with someone I knew and sort of let me know that this experience was actually real and not just imagined or wishful thinking. But it's actually very enlightening, and where we all die, and so it's something that's going to affect all of us. So I think it's really nice if you can get some positive information and hope for people, and people that are dying of cancer, and just giving some hope for people. That's the beautiful aspect of it, that some of these beings can get involved in your life, and I even had some from the Washoe Club visit me down here in New Zealand. I mean, I picked up the same voices that I got from the Washoe Club in Virginia City, Nevada.
I have yet to make it to the Washoe Club, but I did watch a video that you had posted where you were there with your kids doing an investigation. But, you know, I think it's great that you got your children involved. And, I mean, you guys had experiences there at the Washoe Club. You know, and what amazes me is when you go to these places, they don't call you the haunted man for nothing. You seem to be a beacon for this type, I mean, all types of activity, whether it be UFOs, you know, or Bigfoot you were just talking about, or ITC, or, you know, ghosts. You are a beacon for this. They seek you out.
Yeah, or George Knapp, investigator reporter there at Cali TV in Las Vegas, mentioned there's a piggyback effect with this kind of phenomena that it can touch your life, and then it can come out in different manifestations as well. And I think it's almost like if we're okay with the phenomena and we're not getting freaked out by it, that they will continue to communicate in various means. The scientific method does not work when it comes to intelligences that are higher than us, that are more aware than us. It may work on animals, but it doesn't really work when you're dealing with other beings that have greater technology than us. The Washoe Club there, I didn't expect what happened that did happen. Basically, I got this feeling going into this room that, oh my gosh, we're not welcome here. Well, we got leave, came through the spirit box, and then something grabbed my trouser leg on camera and pulled it. And we then got attacked by this energy. We felt sick, so I said, okay, everyone, well, okay, let's go out of here. Let's go to the other part of the building, because I think that I was interrupting a poker game or something. That's what I felt like when I walked into this room. I felt like all these eyes watching me. And you could hear their voices on the audio. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list to go to the Washoe. I just recently did an investigation at the family tree in Santa Quinn, Utah. And a buddy of mine was kind enough to invite me up there with my wife, Cynthia, to do an investigation. And that's been on Ghost Adventures. It's been on The Dead Files. And we got quite a bit of ITC activity that night. I don't recall seeing anything. I never felt threatened or like I was going to get hurt in any way, shape, or form. We did go down into the basement at the end of the night to do an ITC session down there, and it got a bit uncomfortable, but it wasn't like, you know, hey, we shouldn't be here. It was just hey, oh man, it's just kind of, I don't like it down here. You know, it's been 15 minutes. I've had enough. I don't like it down here. But we got quite a bit of ITC responses down there, and it was a good investigation. You know, and I've talked to other people about it whose only experience they've had with the family tree is what they've seen on TV. And then they gave me a ration of crap over it. It's like, you don't know what you're dealing with there and that type of thing. And you know what? Maybe I don't, but nothing followed me home. I'm not affected in any way, shape, or form. I didn't feel threatened there at any time during the 3 hours or 4 hours that we were there. And for me, a lot of places I go to, I don't have that connection like you do. You know, like I said, they seek you out. For me, if I walk away from a location with an EVP, it's a blessing, because everybody watches TV and they expect, if they don't know what ghost hunting is about, they expect that you're going to get evidence every single time, and it's not like that at all. I mean, it's very rare, at least for me, to get any type of evidence. And I've been. Go ahead.
I think, Chaz, I think it depends a lot on. Sorry to interrupt you. I was just thinking. I think it depends a lot on the location as well. Like some areas just have a lot more, and I think it's because there's a lot more entities. If you're in an area that has a lot more like spirits there, that you're more like. I mean, you're kind of up to the ante. I mean, I like you. I have gone on like residential investigations and barely got anything, or not really nothing happened. I mean, that does happen. I mean, as you say, you get very little. What is interesting is going when you're helping people that are dealing with malevolent entities, the ones that are harming them or causing a lot of problems. I found doing that kind of work actually really manifested things a lot more. It was actually quite dangerous, as opposed to just regular paranormal, which there's an element of risk associated with that. Just like if you're going out on to a public street, there's going to be a certain amount of people that might not be so friendly.
Sure.
And probably most people are okay, but there might be some of those that you might want to watch out for.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people, a lot of teams, or a lot of individual investigators who, I mean, we've all seen it on TV. It just seems with a lot of the shows on TV, everything automatically jumps to a negative spirit, or there's a demon here. This isn't a ghost. It's something else that never was of human form. A lot of people seem to go that way, instead of going, oh, it's just this guy was pissed off in life, and now that he's passed over, he's still pissed off.
Yeah.
And I've never ran into an entity that like called me names, through EVP, or gave me anything negative on EVP. I have heard growls, like disembodied growls, like right next to my ear, but I've never had anything negative happen to me. And my reaction to that was it happened after I had packed up all my equipment. So I got extremely agitated.
Well, they're very weird.
Yeah, I got extremely agitated and pissed off and I turned around and started yelling, not at the top of my lungs, but just in a forceful, manner, going, "Hey, you do that after I packed up all of my equipment? How dare you?" And my wife grabs my arm. She says, "It's time to go." you can't do that. It's time to go. And I'm like, but it can't do that to me. That's not fair. And she's like, what's fair have to do with any of this? And it was a lesson. It was a lesson learned, So have you been doing a lot of, are you still in the game as far as paranormal investigations and that type of thing down there in New Zealand?
I have been going to public spots, and then of course a research area where I have a lot going. I can almost guarantee stuff will happen where I go. It's a very, very active area, but I have not done any residentials for a while. Of course, when you do residentials, you really need to have a really good support system when you're doing that. I think, there's always potential of something, going wrong or being followed, or something attaching to you. But I pretty much I've gone into this cryptozoological research, because now I'm finding connections to ufology as well, and I'm getting like connections. I'm trying to put the pieces together, so I'm trying to understand the phenomena and what's going on, and why is it acting a certain way, and who are they, and what are they, and who are we, and what's our relationship to them? Sure.
And I mean, that's the big question, are they us from a different reality? What do they look down on us like we look down on ants in an ant farm? What do they want from us? I mean, do they find it difficult to make contact with us? Are they on the other side of this where they can't see us and we're the ghosts to them, and they're trying to communicate with us, and every once in a while that veil gets a little thin and we can communicate back and forth, just like you and I would get an EVP or something like that, or we would hear a disembodied voice? Is it the same thing? I mean, that's a big question here. Are they the actual paranormal investigators? Yeah. It's because my big thing is, you always ask, hey, is there anybody here that would like to communicate with us? And it's either, they don't want to communicate with us, or it's extremely difficult for them to communicate with us.
Well, I've got a really good connection with some of them now, and I'm getting repeated messages, repeated names, and I can just about always ask a question and get some kind of response to it. I've gotten a really good connection, but I know what you mean. Like, some just see us as we see them as ghosts, and I'm sure you've had that experience where you get calls for help. I mean, that's pretty eerie. And then there's sometimes I've got messages saying, "Oh, we feed off you."
Wow.
Like they're feeding off our energy.
Wow.
And this was in like this old graveyard. So it was kind of freaky to get that.
Wow.
These calls for help, I get quite a bit, and I get stuff that there's no way you would ever hear on the radio. I mean, I get stuff. I get swearing. I get X-rated responses. I get old languages that aren't used anymore. It's just jaw-dropping, really. I get foreign languages.
Yeah.
And then I just wonder, what's going on over there? It's like they seem to be. Some of them are very well aware of us. I mean, it's like we're actors. Shakespeare says we're actors on a stage. It's like many of them are very aware of us and what's going on in our personal lives.
I just, for me, we were doing an investigation last night at a place here in town called Hotel Apache, which is connected to Binion's. And when I made the reservation, I asked for the most active room. And it ended up being a room right at the front of the hotel on Fremont Street. So we had to deal with the music on Fremont Street blasting and the person in the room next to us blaring their TV. So any type of EVP would have been very difficult to discern. So we were using the SB7 last night, and there for about 15 minutes we were getting some decent responses. And you brought up, getting the messages of help or help me or that type of thing. And we got a few of those last night. And that was the first time that had ever happened to me where we got an interaction where we got the name of the spirit. We got that she had hung herself in the bathroom and she was asking for help. So when we got those, we went back and we, of course, asked, what can we help you with? What can we do for you? And it just started to slow down at that point. So it was almost like maybe she had used all of her energy to give us those few responses on the SB7, and then maybe she was unable to respond at that point, or maybe she was gone at that point. Those are, we don't know what happened, but we did get some responses last night. And it's always interesting because I always, if somebody says, hey, help me, the first thing you want to do is help them. But how do we help them? I mean, of course we have to say, hey, you're not allowed to follow us. You have to stay here. That's not us helping them. But, it's not going to help them by coming to our house and following us home either. Where do we go? Yeah. What do we do with this evidence once we capture it? Where do we go from there other than sharing it with people? I mean, what do we do with this evidence once we've captured it? How do we help them?
Well, for me personally, I mean, I dealt with a lot of spirits. I'm not only just using devices, but in my personal life, I've had a lot of encounters with those before they were born. I've had experiences even with seeing apparitions of people when they're alive, like when they're sleeping and they astral travel and stuff like that. But I think what we can do is provide like emotional support, like a hand to help cross them into the next realm. Like they get stuck between, I guess, like a kind of a neither world because of the. When you're an astral, just speaking as someone who has astral traveled and remember doing it, that when you're in that realm, your emotions and thoughts are very, very powerful. And it's not like, when you're in a body, you can kind of hide them from other people, how you are mentally. But what I feel is that can help them cross over with the help of angelics, and those from higher realms, angelics, to help them cross. And I have sort of done that. I've done some crossing overs with some of the spirits, and I of course I asked for help with those who passed on before. And I've seen this happen with what's called trance mediums, where you've got, say, someone who can have spirits talk to them, like I'm talking to you now. Spirit can enter into them. They give them permission, and they can talk to you and tell you exactly what. I remember talking to this lady by the name of I can't remember her name. Well, I think her name was Vivian, but she said that she had died. Was in Spain, and she couldn't get through to her husband or her children. She was in great distress, and I knew the spirit that had been dead for a long time, and I asked him to help her to cross over, to basically take her to a place where she can get help, like a spiritual hospital kind of place where you can sort of go and you kind of recover from the traumas of Earth. But I think that a lot of hauntings could be solved by people doing this. Where you've got a genuine spirit that is, passed in a very bad way. Like, for example, you mentioned suicide. Well, I think that just like being kind of like a counselor, we can kind of hold their hand in a figurative way. We
Sure.
can help them cross it, to help with those angelics. And you can actually get rid of hauntings that way. Some of them you can.
Sure. That brings up a good point. You've got these paranormal tourism, where you've got these places like the Pioneer Saloon or, Virginia City, that type of thing, where, people pay money to go investigate these places. Wonder how those places would feel if people came in, they paid the money to go in there, and then they, help the spirits cross over. So then there wouldn't be any spirits.
Oh, yeah.
It probably wouldn't go over too well.
Well, in Pioneer, you just have, the regular spirits in a bottle. But, yeah. I know
Yeah,
what you
right.
mean. Yeah, that would definitely, definitely the owners of those venues probably wouldn't be happy to be losing their bucks through paranormal tourism. But it's an ethical thing, isn't it, really? Coming down to someone, in pain and suffering. It's one thing if you've got spirits that are happy, and they're happy to be at that location, and it's an ethical thing, I think, really. That's what it comes down to. And, because I remember I was looking at investigating, was it Tooele?
Tooele. Asylum.
Yes.
Yeah. Asylum 49. Yeah.
I think they have. Yeah. I think I was going to go up there, and there was I was reading the information that said, and you will be asked to leave if you try to cross any of these spirits over. I was looking at the sign on the website.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, but yeah. I mean, it's pretty sad though when you get spirits that are really miserable, or they're crying, or they're, it's pretty disturbing, really.
Well, that a friend of mine from here, she brings up a good point. She used to be heavy into paranormal investigations, and she got out of it because she started to feel empathy for the spirits. She's like, you go to these places, and the first thing you're doing is going, hey, is anybody here? Does anybody want to communicate with me? How did you die? Do you know you're dead? She's like, would you want to be asked those questions over and over and over by different people? She's like, is that fair to the spirits to bug them that way? And I mean, it's a good, valid point she makes that do we have the right to go into these places and ask those questions over and over and over again? And the tough part is whenever I decide, okay, I'm going to go investigate this place, I always try to mentally prepare myself with, how am I going to try to make communication without asking the same stupid questions? The same questions over and over, like I just mentioned. And the first thing that happens is I go in there and everything starts out good. And then when I feel like I'm not getting any responses, I always revert back to those same generic questions. And when I have to go back and listen for EVPs or responses or anything like that, it's depressing to me. I'm like, I got to figure this out because this is I'm driving me nuts. I don't want to listen to the evidence because I'm listening to the same stupid questions. So I'm driving me nuts.
Yeah.
So
right. I see what you're saying. I think we can preempt it by saying, I ask your permission. Can I talk to you? Basically ask their permission, and then if they don't want to talk to you, they don't have to talk to you. They can ignore you. Just like if someone tries to talk to you on the street, well, you can either stop and listen to them, or you can go on walking. And so they can, do the same thing. But yeah, I can see that would be quite annoying. I mean, if they were stuck listening to someone, that wouldn't be very fun. But I'm sure in some way they can kind of get away from that if they don't want to be around it. I don't know about you, but I found quite a few spirits that are quite accommodating as far as talking. Like some of them get quite a kick out of talking to those that are living in bodies. I don't know about you, but I find some of them, they actually make you into a bit of a hero because you're one of the few people that are actually talking to those in their realm. And they might be struggling to talk, especially those that are stuck in between, trying to get attention of people there. And finally somebody talks. I mean, especially, if you go into one of those places where a lot of people go to, I'm sure that's very, applicable to spirit. While they might, I know a washer club, some of the spirits, they do get pissed off with people doing the same thing over and over again. And you might get a really bad response.
Yeah.
Hopefully not get attacked, but
well, we back in, this is 10 years ago when you still could go investigate. We went and investigated out in Amargosa. We did the Opera House, and then we did the hotel, and back in the Spooky Hollow area, the unused area of the hotel, the part that was just run down. And I never got anything negative out of there, although there's one spirit there that apparently was kind of the guy that they called him the boss man, the guy that was like the big mean spirit there. And apparently when he was around, he would let you know by the aroma of cat urine. And he had a room. I don't know. Did you ever investigate out there? Did you ever go out there?
No, I didn't. I just got to hear about it.
Okay. So we were out there, and we were down at the very end of the hallway. The room to the left was his room. And it was very odd because it was kind of a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling just because you knew the reputation of this particular spirit, and you knew that he was an angry spirit. And if he didn't like you, he would, he had the ability to, shove people or punch people. He was a physical spirit in that aspect. So he was a powerful spirit. So we were down there, and you walked into the room and immediately got this very strong odor of cat urine. So we started acknowledging, like, wow, boss man must be here. I can smell it, and that type of thing. And within 30 seconds, the smell was completely gone.
So fortunately, it was just intentionally lit.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, this is my room. I don't want you guys here. And I had heard stories. Like I said, he had a reputation for being an angry spirit and punching people or shoving people and that type of thing. And I didn't experience any of that, but I did experience the cat urine and that type of thing. And that was pretty interesting. That was about the most negative thing that I've ever experienced. And with my wife being a little more sensitive than I am, she actually had an experience of, soon after we investigated out there and had that experience, she was woken in the middle of the night, and he was actually standing over the bed laughing. And that's when she said, yeah, you're not allowed to go out there anymore. You're saging the house tomorrow. You're cleansing the house, and we're cleansing ourselves, and we're not going out there anymore. And we never did after that. And unfortunately, I don't think it's open for investigations anymore unless you want to just rent a room at the hotel and investigate in your room. But I think as far as getting back into Spooky Hollow and that type of thing, I don't think it's open anymore.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this.
There's some people that. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, I was just saying that some people like to antagonize the spirits. Like they'll swear at them, and you've probably seen this happen where investigators will go in there and they'll deliberately try to make them angry or do something really bad, and then something can actually attach and come back, as you mentioned. There's always that risk that that can happen. So I don't even do that. Some people seek for that kind of stuff, but pretty dangerous to do that.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I don't go in and, like you said, provoke. I don't do that because if there's something there and I piss it off, it has the option of either handling it right then and there or coming back to my house and making my life miserable. And I don't want anything to come back to my house and make my life miserable. We always try to sage ourselves after and that type of thing. But, there has been occasions where, I've done an investigation and then there's been activity in my house for a week or two after, and nothing angry or anything like that, but you'll see a shadow cross a wall. Just out of the corner of your eye, you see a shadow of a figure cross the wall where there was no light source pointing at the wall to cause a shadow. Nothing could pass in front of any type of light source to cause a shadow on that wall, but you just saw a human form cross that wall. So we've been pretty successful in not having too much follow us home. Have you had experience with things following you home and making life a little difficult for you?
I've experienced some of the worst things that a person can experience from paranormal. I've experienced both ends of the spectrum. Some beautiful, very amazing, loving, supportive experiences, and then I've experienced the worst. I basically had to learn what they call psychic defense, about how do you defend yourself in your own home. I had one of the tall shadow beings, the tall hooded ones. I could feel him watching me. He actually cut my throat. There was blood on the pillow. I told him to get out, leave. It was assertive. And you have to be, and not to show any fear. Obviously, it's hard not to when you got something like that happening. And when I was helping, I was working with a psychic medium in Vegas, and we were helping cleanse people's houses from bad stuff. I had one entity punch me in the face twice and growl, and someone was with me when it growled. Actually shook my bed, screamed from inside the mattress, and I was basically under siege in place. I went through hell to get rid of this spirit, and I've experienced getting burnt, scratched. They can drain your energy. You can all, as a sensitive, your emotions can be really vulnerable. Like you pick up on like depression, anger, sadness, like even on locations in these areas that I can't go around places like, I don't want to go around places like mental hospitals or anything. That's really very dangerous as a sensitive to be around that. So you have to be very, very careful, because there's some really bad stuff out there. I had spirits really jealous of me, like when I had this girl when I was going out with, when I was in Vegas, and he would stomp on the ceiling in her house, and he actually tried to burn me. I felt this energy. Over at like Fox's Park, I felt like just before the scratch showed up, I got this feeling, when you're getting sunburnt, you can feel your skin kind of getting affected by the sun's radiation.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that just before a scratch appeared on my arm over at Foxridge. And then I've seen dogs react to this shadow being as well, terrified. I've experienced some of the worst kind of stuff, along with being kicked out of our house when I was like a young teen and that. Just some of the horrific, horror story stuff. That is just, some of that's just pretty shocking. I had to learn how to fight back and take back my space. And so I'm like really, really careful now. There's some things that saging won't help with. there are some beings out there that are that powerful that saging will just make them more angry. It won't. What I call like human spirit, saging is actually generally pretty effective from my experience.
Oh, with the saging and stuff like that, we've been pretty fortunate. I think we've never really encountered anything that was, as I would go, above my pay grade. We've never encountered, as far as I know, anything demonic. Nothing has ever went out of its way to harm us or anything like that. But, you know, with people that go through experiences like that, or they go on investigations, there's not a rule book here. People just see it on TV and want to go do it, and sometimes have to learn the hard way. You know, it's like being a little kid. You know, hey, I shouldn't mess with that beehive, but the first time you mess with it and you get stung, and then you realize, oh, I probably shouldn't do that. You know, that's not a good thing.
The other problem I see, Chaz, with a lot of TV shows is they go for the drama.
Yeah.
But they don't actually go to actually help people, and I mean actually rid what's going in the heart or solving it. A lot of those shows don't. They go there to get something out of it in a monetary sense of entertainment purpose for the drama, but they don't go there to actually help solve it. And those people, they can end up with worse situations after they've had people go there to basically it can roll things up a lot, make it a lot worse.
Sure.
And
sure.
I mean, I've read of some people that had some of the various shows go around, and it didn't actually end up helping them. It actually end up hurting the situation. So, you know, then you've got people like Bishop James Long, the exorcist, who goes in to try to help people after fact. You know, when you got people that go in there and it antagonizes the energy or even wakens it further.
And, you know, you've got, with those TV shows, the only show that I've seen that comes close to helping people, at least my opinion, would be you've got the Kindred Spirits show. Is that show on in New Zealand, Kindred Spirits?
Was that Psychic Kids, or was it different?
Well, it's different. It's Adam Berry and Amy Bruni. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Ghost Hunters, right. I know who you mean now. Yeah.
They get calls from people like, hey, we're having these experiences in our house. So they come to the house and they go through and they do the walkthrough and they hear the stories and everything, and they attempt to communicate. And then once they get some sort of interaction, they start diving into the history of the place and the history of the family, and, you know, whether the family has any, you know, items that belonged to the dead person that they believe is haunting their house. And they go through and they do all of this research, and then they, you know, proceed with the investigation. And then they're very good about deciding and coming up with, hey, it's actually this person, or we don't, you know, it may be this person that died in this house, you know, 150 years ago, or, you know, it may be this person, your grandfather that passed away 15 years ago and he's just here to help. You know, they're very good at diving back into the history and connecting those dots to figure out and help understand who may be there or who is actually there interacting with the family. And, you know, then they go through and they actually make an effort to help the family understand what's going on and cope with the situation to where, you know, they don't feel threatened anymore, or they're reassured that, hey, it's grandma and she's just looking out and looking over the baby and protecting the baby, or there's a mean spirit here and grandpa's here keeping the mean spirit at bay, and we're going to get rid of the mean spirit and we're going to help grandpa cross over. They seem to be very good, and there's a lot of compassion on that show. And they, you know, they bring in like Chip Coffey from Psychic Kids and that type of thing. They bring him in, and I like that show because it's not, oh, bro, I just saw a demon, or, you know, they're not yelling at anything. They're there to be very compassionate with the spirits and, make those connections. And they seem like they're truly there to help the family. And a lot of the shows, you don't see that. They call the team in, the team comes in and investigates and goes, well, we got these 3 EVPs and we think this is what's going on, and good luck. There's no, hey, there's no compassion there. It's just like, hey, we're here to try to catch evidence. Here's the evidence we may or may not have caught. And this is an EVP. You've never heard one before, but we caught an EVP in your house, and if you ever need anything else, call us back. And they never go back. So
yeah, that's really good to see people doing that. It's actually going in to help not only the people in the place, but also the spirits that are, it sounds like they're trying to get help, or rather than just profiteering and going for the entertainment aspect of it.
So but that's the thing. Entertainment, and whether it's evidence is faked or real, it seems these days if it's demonic, it equals ratings. People like stuff people like stuff that scares them. People like stuff like that they don't understand, and it frightens them. That's what they want to see. They want to see, dude, oh my God, I just saw a shadow figure. Well, you know what? You had 3 cameras pointed that direction and not one of them caught it. Or, did you hear that? And there's music playing in the background, the underlying bed of music that they've put in post-production. It's like, no, I didn't hear it because you were playing music. A lot of people, want to get into this field, and they want to investigate stuff because they think no matter where they go, they're going to catch evidence. And it's not that way at all. You know that. I know that. I mean, you catch more than I do. I can go, there's places I've gone where I've sat there for 8 hours and gotten absolutely nothing. Or there's places I've gone where I've sat there 20 minutes and pulled 2 EVPs. It's just not, people need to understand, it's just not like what you see on TV. Not everything's demonic. Not everything is going to scratch you. You're not always going to see a shadow figure. You're not always going to get EVPs. You go somewhere and it is what it is. You're either going to get something or you're not. They're either going to, there's either nothing there, or there's something there that's going to either interact with you or not interact with you. It's their call, not yours. You can't do anything to force a spirit to interact with you.
Oh, exactly.
You can yell.
I think you can up the ante with, like going to, take for example fishing. If you want to go fishing, you ask people, hey, where do I go where the fish bite, or where's a really good place? And so I guess you can go to places that, you've got better odds of that. But you're right. You can't force them to talk to you if they don't want to.
Yeah. And, I like going to places. I like going to outside places. It's a little bit tougher because even if you don't feel the breeze, your microphone's going to pick up a breeze. And it's a little bit difficult that way. But, I mean, I seem to get more out of places, that are outside or out in the middle of nowhere. Like we just went to Rhyolite about a month and a half ago. And I've never read anything. Oh,
yeah, I saw that. Yep.
Yeah, I've never read anything that Rhyolite was haunted or anything. We're just like, hey, let's go check it out. And I took my buddy Mike, who's never been. And we pulled an EVP out of the jail. And Mike asked a question like, how long, were you here at Rhyolite? And it was tough to hear because there was wind going on. And it was a very faint EVP, but it says 7 years. And that was the only thing we pulled out of Rhyolite that night. So it makes me excited to want to go back to Rhyolite and focus on that jail some more. Because we only sat at the jail.
You figure out a good history.
Yeah, so we only sat at the jail for 15 minutes. Now I want to go back and concentrate on that jail and go back there and actually play that EVP that we captured there. So if the spirit is there that we connected with, might hear his voice and go, hey, I talked to these guys before. They're interested in what I have to say. Let's carry on a conversation and us be very respectful at that time, but try to get some more out of it. Try to have them give me some history. Kind of like with talking to you on this, I want some history. That's what I want. I want to know why you're here. I want to know if you had a choice on whether to go or stay. Are you still here at this location because you want to be? You know, those type of things. What's it like on the other side?
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing. I want to know that stuff. I don't want to go, hey, do you want to talk to us? Again, like I said, I always go right back to those questions. And it drives me nuts. I'm like, do I have to make a list of questions? You know, do I have to have a checklist? So, but hey,
next time you go out, I was just going to say, next time you go out, Chaz, ask them what date they think it is on Earth.
Okay.
And I'll tell them the year, and I've gotten some some pretty big responses when they realise how much time has passed. Like they have no idea that, say, 100 years has passed. I mean, their time's different to our time.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You know, do they perceive, you know, what's going on? Mike and I just went. Did you ever get a chance to investigate the cemetery in Sandy Valley?
Yeah, I think I went there one time when you were there. From was it the investigations at Maury?
Yes.
Set up
yes. Yes. I've never.
Yeah, I went there a couple of times.
Okay, I've never pulled an EVP out of there that I can remember. I did get a couple pictures of some light orbs. There's some self-illuminating orbs out of there, and I did see a shadow figure run across the middle of the cemetery, and as it was running, it actually blocked out some of the solar lighting on a couple of the graves. So I did see that, but my buddy Mike and I went out there about a week ago, and we go out there about once a year, and over like the past 5 years, we haven't pulled anything out of there. But we went the other night, and we decided to try something different. Rather than just go out there and, you know, ask the same questions over and over and over again, we just sat down and started carrying on a conversation with whoever was there, talking about current events, you know, with the coronavirus and, you know, people being sick and the climate of people being angry at each other and that type of thing. And I have yet to go back through all of the footage and see if I captured anything, but we just tried to do something different, you know, trying to see if they were aware of what's going on. They had we asked for advice on how to handle things. Now, what do we do with the current climate in this country? How do we fix things? Did they have any advice for us? So I'm real interested to go back through the evidence and the footage to see if we captured anything that corresponds with that type of stuff and what we were talking about.
Well, do you remember Creepy Howie's grave there?
Yes.
I remember the old director, Barry Berry. He got pulled down into his grave one time. That was actually before I went there. And then when I went there, maybe by myself, I can't remember. But I went down in the same spot. I also got this cramp right by his grave. I went right down, right by Creepy Howie's grave.
Yeah, I remember Barry mentioning something about that, but we found in Howie's grave, it was weird because it doesn't actually, and I didn't even look last time when we were there last week. It didn't even cross my mind, but his grave doesn't say Howie or anything on it. It just has a piece of plywood on the headstone.
Yeah, it covers his name.
Yeah, and it's just such an odd thing out there. That graveyard, I just, for some reason, when we went out there about 5 years ago, I looked at Mike and I said, didn't this place used to be bigger? It was just an odd feeling that I thought that there used to be a lot more graves in it. And apparently, obviously there wasn't, but it just seemed to me that there used to be a lot more graves in it. Now it doesn't seem like there's nearly as many. But there's a grave on the exact opposite end of the graveyard, and it's for a gentleman named Clayton Carter. And Mike took photos using a full spectrum camera and it's like a energy vortex coming out of the back of the headstone. And I'll have to find the pictures and I'll post them up. But It's pretty interesting that he, I'll send the pictures to you. He captured 2 pictures, and there's one it's not there, and the other one it's there, and he took them one right after another. Pretty interesting. But like I said, I've never caught any EVPs. Yeah, no EVPs out of there, nothing like that. And even the last few times that we've gone out there over the past 5 years, we'll go out there and spend a couple hours and not capture anything. But I remember when we used to go out there with Maury and that type of thing, it seemed like there was always activity going on. So that, Maury seemed to be a little more sensitive to stuff like that. So, maybe it was, obviously, maybe they don't, because I'm not as sensitive and Mike's not as sensitive that way, maybe they don't see us the way they see you guys. Maybe, there's not this beacon of light above my head where, letting them know that they can talk to me.
Yeah. Well, they can see our auric fields, and they can see, like if we're opening, if we're really attuned, like we've got a crown chakra, they can see the light emanating. So that kind of attracts, kind of like moths get attracted to the light and the darkness.
So now,
I think it helps. It helps if you've got sensitivities to them.
So now the key is to figure out for someone who's not as sensitive, how do we make ourselves a little more sensitive? What can we do to safely open up a little bit more? All intent, like opening up your mind's eye. In a sense, what can we do to open that up a little bit?
Well, I found that the main thing that I found helped me, I mean, I've always sort of been a little bit that way anyway. The thing that really helped me was working with the chakra, which is Sanskrit for, wheel. Like these energy wheels that are in certain points of our body. And, I mean, this is what I found personally is learning to open those up. But also, having said that, you have to be really careful because then you're going to start attracting more attention around you. Sure. And you may also be getting pictures, like these little Polaroids of people that you don't even know. I mean, that's just kind of what I found happen. Anyone that wants to look that up, you can get impressions. Like I'm looking at Dorothy here in your little chat window here, talking about being they can detect people's sensitivities to them. And so if you've got your third eye open, that is definitely a good way to sort of open the mind's eye up to what's going on around you. And I find sometimes I'll get little like Polaroids of some of the spirits around me and that, and it can, come without warning. And even like if I'm lying down at night and you sort of get little Polaroids of what's going on around you. I've had this with the Sasquatch as well, that they can do that as well. I mean, you can pick up on what they look like, and it's quite an interesting tool, really. But having said that, you got to protect your field because, what if something not so good comes up,
Sure.
and that can happen.
Well, that brings up a good point of protection. You being a sensitive, how do you go about protecting yourself? How would someone go about protecting themselves, before an investigation, after the investigation, and even at home? I know that's probably a pretty broad answer there, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, as the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. Like, if we have our mind on really negative stuff, that's going to be more likely, that kind of energy is going to attract that. And so if we, one thing I did, with meditation was raise my vibration shield. And that I found like the love, I call the love light vibration, actually repels, actually repels anything that's negative because they don't like that. One time I had these spirits that would poke me through the mattress, and I'd get mad and I'd say stop it and go away, and they'd keep doing it. Well, what I learned to do was I actually sent them, instead of getting angry, I sent them basically the loving energy to them, and it repelled them straight away. They stopped doing it. So there's different things. there's shielding techniques, there's like grounding techniques. I know, psychics only deal with angels. And the energy with people that do that is a completely different energy. Like, it was actually quite amazing. There's a sense that I could feel that of some people that only deal with angels from angelic realm. Like, I can pick up the energy and actually take it back home with me. It's actually an amazing feeling. I kind of like this feeling of warmth and very powerful. And having said that, same thing with negatives. So you can pick up stuff. You can pick up, when if you develop psychically, you can pick up on a negativity from some spirit, like depression or anger. It can actually, you might even think it's you, and it's actually picking up the spirit that's around you, hanging around you, and hopefully not an attachment.
We were actually at not Sandy Valley. We were out at Amargosa one time, and we were investigating. We were taking a break, and everybody was just going about doing their thing and talking. And I wanted to get back in and investigate, and I just started getting angry, and angrier and angrier, and I'm just like, let's go. We're only here, a little bit of time. Let's go. Let's do this. And they're looking at me. And I had to kind of take a step back for a second, and it was almost like something had made me angry. I mean, I wanted to investigate. I had driven all that way, but it was so unlike me to get that angry towards everybody over something like that. You can be affected in a negative way, and you can be affected in a positive way. You were talking about protecting yourself. I mean, that goes a big way. I've heard stories of fellow investigators here in town going in and provoking, and then for the next 6 months they're doing stuff that were so uncharacteristic of what they would normally do, changing how they dress, changing how they talk, doing things that they wouldn't normally do. Maybe they picked up a smoking habit that they would have never had before. Maybe they started going to strip clubs. Maybe they stopped reaching out to their friends that were like dear friends to them. And just then other people would go and they would do a cleansing on them, and then they would be back to normal. So it's almost like they were affected and taken over by another spirit that manipulated every aspect of their life and caused them to do things that weren't like what they were as a real person. Pretty interesting stuff. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, I can definitely identify with what you're saying. And Dorothy mentions here that boundaries are very important. Yes. So basically, set a boundary with these spirits. Like, for example, you're not to follow us home or attach to me or anyone I know or any of my equipment. It's very, very important to set those boundaries, even like before you start the investigation, set that straight. And even then, some naughty ones might still try to do that or do that. So you've got to be prepared that, that can happen. We talk about, how something can make you angry, as you mentioned. I had something similar where I was watching a very violent movie, and I noticed that my anger level was increasingly, very fast. And I thought to myself, stop, this is not me. As soon as I said that, I saw this black shadow leave my forehead area and took off into the bathroom. And that feeling went with it. So your spirits can ramp up your energy. I suspect some of them are probably feeding off that emotion.
Yeah, and back in the day, when Art Bell first came back on the air in 2001, he did a lot of shows on shadow figures because he had seen shadow figures in his home. And, he had people coming on talking about shadow figures. And I think at some point it got to where these people said, hey, they feed off your fear. You can't even talk about them. You can't acknowledge that you see them because they feed off your fear. And I think that's part of something that you may have experienced there, that it was feeding off of you. And we've done investigations. I know you felt it. It's referred to as the paranormal hangover. You do an investigation, and then for like the next 2 or 3 days, you're just wiped out. You don't feel hungover.
totally.
You just have no energy. I've been on investigations where 10 minutes after leaving the investigation site, I'm falling asleep. I've just got no energy. Can't even keep my eyes open. And it could be 9 o'clock at night and I'm just beat. And so now I make it a point when I end an investigation and we're doing the saging and that type of thing, I not only sage myself and others and get myself saged, but I also sage my equipment. And I sage the inside and the outside of the vehicle that we're riding in. And I used to say, hey, I ask that you not follow us home. And then my friend said, why are you asking? You have to tell them in a nice way that they are not to follow you home. They are not allowed to follow you home. They are to stay here. They are not allowed to follow you home. And it was a good point, so try to make all the precautions that we possibly can to prevent something from coming home with us. But occasionally one of the naughty ones does. But again, like I said earlier, we've never had anything negative happen here. Seen a few things, heard a few things, but never had anything negative. I've never been punched or pulled out of bed or anything like that. And the tough part for me is I find it hard to believe that something can grab you by the ankles and pull you out of the bed. But I guess it's possible. I mean, you might have even experienced something like that with the pokes in the mattress and that type of thing. But I've never experienced anything like that.
I've had them pick up my arm and drop it. In the bed, that's happened probably about 5 or 6 times. And they'll just, you try and get to sleep, they'll actually grab your arm, lift it up, and drop it. And it'll wake you up.
Well, that's got to be such an unsettling feeling. I mean, a helpless feeling, probably. Like, what? That wasn't me.
Oh, I think what they're doing is having a laugh. Just like, there's jokers.
Sure.
I think they're probably just having a laugh, I mean, can you imagine how fun it would be being a ghost? I mean, if you like to play jokes.
Right.
On the living,
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, there's certain things, it's like, man, I hope nobody's watching. if I'm taking a shower or whatever, the last thing you want to ever think about is a ghost watching you take a shower. You're wandering around the house getting a cup of coffee, and you don't, first thing in the morning, you don't want a ghost watching you walk around the house in your skivvies.
Yeah, that makes me laugh because I think they see a lot more than we would really like to realize.
I know. They get to see all this stuff, embarrassing or not. So,
well, I remember there was a really good psychic that had worked with FBI up in Utah, and she was telling me that they even some of them like to watch people having sex. But there's. I don't think there's too much they can't see. I mean, we're not only spirits, but, people that are really good at astral projection,
sure,
they can do the same thing too.
Sure.
You can get the living that do that. You leave your body in astral, you can actually, it's like spy on someone. But, there's obviously an ethical aspect to that.
Sure.
And I picked up on energy of people who've done that to me too.
Well, that goes back to that goes back to the shadow people. Another theory is that the shadow people are actually somebody, an astral projection form, somebody astrally traveling to your house. That's what you see. Or, maybe a ghost is someone that's astral projecting. They're traveling. Maybe that's what you see when you're somewhere and you see a shadow figure run across the hallway. Maybe it's not necessarily a ghost. Maybe it's just somebody astral traveling. It's just another one of those unanswered questions. Yeah. I mean, if it's a shadow figure and it's not interacting with you other than as soon as you see it, it darts off or disappears or something like that. Maybe it's like somebody kind of playing hide and seek with you, or they're spying on you, and then it's like, uh-oh, they just saw me. I better split. Pretty crazy stuff.
Oh,
yeah. So... Well, hey, buddy, it's after midnight on my time. What time is it over there in New Zealand?
Oh, it's just after 7 p.m. So, you're ahead there. So, I'll let you get your beauty sleep there, man. Thanks for.
Oh, I need a lot of sleep for that.
Show on there.
I need a lot of beauty sleep. You can see me. You can see my picture, man. I need a lot of beauty sleep. But hey, we got to do this again, man. We got to do this again. I am going to start this podcast. I'm just trying to get used to using the equipment and everything. Dude, it's been a gas, Mark. I appreciate you shooting me a call and shooting a breeze with me.
Chaz, man. Yeah.
We miss you, bud. We miss you over here in Vegas.
Thanks very much, mate. Yeah, I miss being there too. So, all right, mate. Have a good one.
Yeah, you take care, Mark, and I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thank you for giving me a shout. I appreciate it. Have a good night, bud. Take care. All right, my friends, that was my dear friend Marc Coppell from New Zealand. Used to live here in Vegas. We did some investigations together. Thank you, Mark, for calling into my show, and I greatly appreciate it. There you go. That was the interview I conducted with Marc Coppell. It's been a while since I conducted that interview, but it was a great interview, and I thought I'd pull it out of the archives and put it up for everybody to listen to, because there is a lot of good information contained in that interview with Mark in regards to cleansing yourself after an investigation, dealing with entities that may not be so nice, and just general information in there that everybody should know if you're going to be a paranormal investigator. There's a lot of stuff in there to take into account. So that's going to do it for this episode. Again, you can find Marc Coppell on Facebook. You can find this podcast on Facebook. We have a group. We have a page on there. Don't forget to go like the page. Join the group. I'm going to put up some pictures that I mentioned in the podcast from the Sandy Valley Cemetery. I'm going to put those up in the group today for everybody to see. And look for an interview next week, and stay safe and be good, everybody, and love your neighbor.